she's deceased now, but she is a contemporary teacher, 20th century teacher. So, and it's Valentine's Day, and I don't have anything special to talk about on Valentine's Day, except happy Valentine's Day to everyone. Um, so, for the last year, we've been talking about classics quite a lot. And it's kind of time, I think, to rotate back to modern American Zen teaching, and the way that Zen has been adapted to the American sensibility. Typical, a typical process of the spread of Buddhism, and encountering different cultures. And so this is Buddhism and Zen's encounter with American culture. And Buddhist practice is not confined to a single time, and to a single teacher, although it has its origin in one teacher and in the Buddha mind that we strive to encounter in our lives. But it is both traditional and relevant always, to our lives in the present circumstances, in big and small ways. Joko Beck was a senior student of Maezumi Roshi. Did you ever encounter her, Charles, when you were studying with Zen Center of Los Angeles? You're muted.
Yes, I encountered her, and I spent a lot of time there, but I was always so busy in life. I would live so far away. It was difficult for me to keep going back and forth in LA. But yes, the person that teaches Big Mind, I don't know if you know who that is. I used to practice with him quite a bit. What's his name? Anyway, he has a program that's called Big Mind.
Okay.
Joko Beck, and the person that had the monastery back in New York, and a lot of the people that you see in this field used to go to that.
Are you thinking of Bernie Glassman, maybe?
Bernie Glassman also.
Yeah.
And he had a bakery. Let's see who's out. If you say their names, I'll recognize them.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and also one of our colleagues, Bruce's and my colleagues, Norm, was also a student at ZCLA, and Joko Beck was his assigned. He was assigned to her. In any case, Maezumi Roshi was the founder of Zen Center of Los Angeles, and he was a contemporary of Suzuki Roshi. She was given Dharma transmission by Maezumi, but split with him when his sexual misconduct with his students, including her teenage daughter, was revealed. So then she founded a Zen center in San Diego, and she renounced all the trappings of priesthood and many of the Japanese forms of service, and offered a teaching that was thoroughly adapted to American life and contemporary psychology in the 20th century. And she died in 2011. You've probably noticed by now that I like to use a book for reference for Dharma talks, because reading ignites my thinking about life and Zen, and often helps put words to something that inarticulate that I've been feeling and experiencing. So it took me a long time, but I finally thought of circling back to Joko Beck. Her work is always very down to earth, very immediate and practical about our daily, ordinary life. It's not particularly theoretical or philosophical, and it helped me in the years of my beginning study. It helped me to understand that Zen practice is not really some esoteric intellectual preoccupation, which it can seem to be, but a way of being deeply connected to my life as an ordinary person. Now, I've mentioned her version of the Bodhisattva vow before, and I'll read it again to you. Caught in a self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts is only the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher. being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream is the focus of a lot of Beck's teaching, as it is the focus of most of our lives. And in the first chapter of this collection of Dharma talks that the book that I showed you, she compares our life to a whirlpool in a stream. The stream of human life really has no beginning and no end, at least that we can know anyway. But each of us is like a temporary whirlpool, an eddy, slightly separated from the main stream, but at the same time indistinguishable from the main event. If we take the view of history, we as individuals disappear, and only big events like wars and migrations appear. If we step back further, the existence of humans is only a small part of the historical picture. Species arise and disappear. And in deep the deep history of the planet, humans don't even exist. And even farther, the movement of land masses and the formation of bodies of water. And actually, all of these kinds of things are going on all the time, and everything is changing all the time. But each of us experiences our existence as the center of the universe. I'm the center of the universe. You are the center of your universe. I spend most of my time with my little concerns. Where are my keys? I'm hungry. Did you forget to buy milk? All these kinds of things, the self-centered dream, are the texture of my life. And therefore, what Joko Beck says, this is the cause of suffering, or this is the essence of suffering, this sense of this self-centeredness, and this sense of being incomplete. Our separate, she says, is our suffering. Our separateness is our suffering. But on the other end, so the idea is if we realize that we are part of the stream, that the suffering will be less. But the fact is we are separate. That's inescapable. Both separate and in relationship. Both the whirlpool and the stream. Both our self-centered drop and the waterfall. One talk that I heard recently, I'm taking a course in the Vimalakirti Sutra and Vimalakirti Sutra. And one of the things that the teacher talked about said that this sutra implies is that Buddhas are capable of seeing or being both the absolute and the relative at the same time. But as bodhisattvas, we have to kind of toggle back and forth. Maybe faster and faster and closer and closer, but we still have a self, and we need to have a self, and at the same time we need to try to have a bigger view. But most of our time we spend being uncomfortable and trying to fix it, wishing it to be otherwise, as my teacher Grace would say. So along these lines, I've been thinking a lot lately about thinking itself, and words and sentences, and how they express my self-centeredness and each of our self-centeredness. Like most of us, I make judgments about things and about people. And my judgments are really a kind of defensive rampart, keeping me safe from having feelings like hurt or rejection, reinforcing my separateness and guarding it really carefully. But in fact, when I do this, and I do it with thinking words in my mind about another person or a circumstance, these words are just sentences, like he's a snob, or she's an arrogant bitch, or something like that. But they give me an illusory and momentary sense of safety and protection particularly if I say them to someone else who agrees with me. Talk about a self-centered dream. All of these sentences reeling out of my brain, one after another, constructing an illusion, a separate world of safety and security just for me. As if words and sentences describe the world or the universe or the whole of existence. As if my puny concepts reeled out one after another in a linear fashion could define reality. A single thread of words and the whole universe is going on all around. But all I can do is blah, 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 blah. Just think of one of my definitions of another's character, my way of thinking of defining who that person is. Even if I said he's nice or she's sweet, that barely touches the whole of a human being, which is unfathomable. Unfathomable, mysterious, complex, unknowable, and changeable. I can't ever put my finger on it or my word on it. But even if I know that, even if I start thinking about the stream, I still do it all the time. Just about this incredible wonder about any single thing in experience, I say, I have one word or one sentence. So I'll give you an example. I was thinking about this morning when I was making my oatmeal and I looked at, my one rolled oat. What's your story, oat? So I'm giving it a name. It's oat. So this one syllable captures the whole beginningless circumstances and causes and conditions that brought this little oat to my house, and it's going to go in my pan and it's going to go in my mouth and go through my intestinal system and into our septic system and go on and on and on and on. That's just an oat. And so it's looking at this tiny little thing and it's unfathomable and the word doesn't get it. And then that goes away and something else happens and I do it again. No wonder we're told to sit down and stop talking, stop reeling out sentences and be quiet and open ourselves to everything else, to life itself. To be open, to be part of the stream, to breathe, to wake up from the self-centered dream, to see a wider and bigger view, or even no view at all, and see everything that we do, all the sentences, and just let them drop. And then there's a glimpse of freedom, relaxing our clutching and having to define everything and have things our way and make our loved ones see things our way and put the dirty laundry in the right basket. Don't you know by now it's dark colors and lights, and so on and so on. So, as I'm thinking about talks, all kinds of references come up for me. And so, for instance, another thing I was thinking about was, does anybody, maybe some of you who have children or grandchildren have seen the book, The Busy, Busy World by Richard Scarry. And there's a big, panorama of the, from afar, or maybe up on a mountain and looking down into a valley and across to a body of water. And in this whole view, there are all kinds of things going on. There's someone wheeling a baby in a baby carriage. There's a train. There's a bus. There's a factory. There's a steamroller. all these things are going on all the time. One time I was in somewhere in the Berkeley area, and maybe up at the Rose Garden or something like that, and looking down across Berkeley as it goes down towards the San Francisco Bay. And I had this, I'm sure Richard Scarry took his inspiration from that, because in the far distance I could see there was a train, and there's a boat, there are boats in the bay, and over here is somebody taking her baby for a walk, and someone down there are lights on, and so on and so forth. It's all going on all the time. And so, and every single little thing down to the oats in the kitchens is every single definable entity is moment by moment the ineffable effect of innumerable causes and conditions. And our singleness and our seeing another person as single and definable, and therefore controllable, softens and maybe even disappears. And the fantasy of knowing as we think in our epistemological brains, the fantasy of knowing anything or anybody softens. And at the same time, we still need to find our keys, maintain our driver's license, and get our teeth cleaned. But maybe a little more gently, and maybe a little more slowly, with some wonder at it all, arising and falling as we arise and fall in the miracle of being here at all. And in Zazen, we find our way to dropping the dream for a moment and just abide in the experience of it all, of life itself, noticing our thinking tendencies, just noticing, just noticing, dropping them. That's our practice. Just noticing the spooling threads and seeing them for what they are, and how they create and reinforce our narrow and view and participation in a narrow life. Once we get a glimpse of the freedom beyond the narrow life and momentarily drop our separateness and remember that we're part of something beginningless and endless, formless and empty. It reminded me of the first century Hebrew scholar and sage Hillel said, "If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? If I am for myself alone, what am I? And if not now, when?" And this is our life koan. Are we the whirlpool, or are we the stream? Or are we both, or are we neither? What are we? This is our life koan, and this is our practice.